Hi guys, so what we thought would be nice is because over the weeks of lockdown, several people having special celebrations like birthdays, and it seems such a shame that we can't celebrate it the way we normally would. So what we thought we would do is make a lovely celebration cake that you can make at home that looks really spectacular, okay? But it's really nice and simple to do. So we were going to show you how to make one. So I've got a little helper here, Jay, my son, and so he's going to be my assistant. Okay, so we've got our ingredients laid out here. Now this is the ingredients just for the sponge cake. We will show you what you're going to need for the icing on top in a little while. So first here we have
350 grams of marge.
Yep, so 350 of that. And then caster sugar we need
350 grams of caster sugar.
How many eggs?
6 large eggs. 100 grams of cocoa powder. 200 grams of self-raising flour. 4 teaspoons of milk.
And then also we've got some strawberries that we'll need for decoration. I'll explain a bit more about decoration in a moment. Okay, so we're going to preheat our oven first. Now for a fan oven, we need to put it on 170. Okay, so Jay's going to pop that on now. If you've got a normal oven without a fan, you need to put it on 190. And if you have a gas oven, you need to put it on gas mark 5. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is soften the marge, okay? So Jay's just going to give that a little whisk to soften it up. So pop it in the bowl, mate. Okay, and turn it on. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make that nice and soft. Then you can add our sugar. All the lumps out. Okay, so once we've done that, we're going to add in our sugar, and he's going to beat up the marge and the sugar together, so it's a nice light colour. Okay, so your mixture should end up nice and light and fluffy like so. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to break the eggs into a cup. Now the reason I say break them into a cup instead of popping them in the bowl straight away is because if eggshell ends up in the cup, it's fine, we can fish it out. If it ends up in the mix, it's a lot harder to fish out, okay? I can guarantee you're always going to end up with a bit of eggshell. So Jay, would you like to crack an egg into there? Okay. Away from that bit, put your finger there. That's right. In the middle. That's right. Pull that apart. Like so. So as you can see, you are going to end up with a bit of eggshell in, no doubt.
No.
That's fine. So we just tip the egg up so we get the egg mix in there, like that. Okay, that's fine. So once we've done that, we just need to check for eggshell. It will be a miracle if there was none in there, but I can't actually see any, so not bad. So what you want to do is, you're going to crack each egg individually. Once you've done one, you're going to pop it into your bowl, because we're going to do one at a time, okay? And now we're going to whisk that particular egg in. Okay, so this is why they say don't work with kids or animals. So we've got cake mix up here, and we've got a bit of a spillage here, but it will all be fine. Okay? Okay, so we've dealt with that disaster. So what we're going to do now is Jay is now going to whisk in that first egg into the mix. Go for it. Once you've whisked that in, you're going to do the same with all the other 5 eggs, okay? You're going to crack them into a cup first. You're going to pop one in, whisk it, stop the whisk, crack another one. Keep going until you haven't got any more eggs left, okay? So your mix should look like this, okay? And then once you've done that, you want to make sure you wash your hands, okay? Because obviously you've been handling raw eggs. You're going to end up with it over your hands no matter what you do. So you need to give them a really good wash with soap, okay? Because obviously raw egg can cause food poisoning if you don't wash your hands and then put your hands in your mouth afterwards. Okay, so the next step is to add your flour. Okay, so we're going to sieve that in. So Jay's going to do that now. Like so. Okay, so once you sift your flour in, you're now going to mix that in. Like so. Okay, so once you've sifted your flour in, you're then going to sift in your cocoa powder. So, Jay, you want to sift that into the mix? So you're going to do exactly the same as you did with the flour, sift that in, and then you're going to beat it up with your mixer. You can do this by hand, it will just take a little bit longer, and it won't make your hand ache a bit, but yeah, whatever you can do. Okay, so you're now going to mix in your cocoa powder. Okay, so your mix should end up being like this, okay? Nice, tasty looking chocolate mix, okay? Okay, so our next step we're going to do is we're going to grease the baking tray, okay? You have to excuse the state of these, but they've had a lot of wear over the years. So you're basically going to get some marge on some kitchen roll and just wipe around the edges and the base of the tray like that. Jay, do you want to carry that on? Like so. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm using an 8-inch tin here, okay? So we're probably going to make 3 layers for this cake. So if you start spooning it in, Jay, so you want to try and divide it equally between like the 3 cake tins, okay? So that's right, spoon some more in. Keep going until you've sort of filled that tin. And some more. Okay, so we're going to open the oven up. As you can see, we're using a different oven to what we set, simply because when we set this one, we realised that it still smells from garlic from last night's tea, and we don't want a garlic chocolate cake. So we're going to use a different oven, for those of you wondering why we swapped. Okay, so Jay's going to carefully pop that in. Okay, on the shelf like that. Okay, and then shut the door. Okay, using other gloves so you're nice and safe. Okay, so we're going to do that with all 3 layers and make sure they're all baked. Okay, so once it's done, I'm going to take it out. It's going to take about 20 to 25 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to check it in a little while and take it out and show you when it's cooked. Okay, so now all your sponges are made, okay, we're going to make up some icing for your cake, okay? So what you're going to need is, you're going to need 100 grams of chocolate, okay? You're going to need 350 grams of icing sugar and 170 grams of butter, which is going to have to be nice and soft, okay? Okay, so you're going to pop your chocolate all broken up into a microwavable bowl, pop it in the microwave, and then you're going to set it for about 30 seconds, okay, to try and melt that down, and then you want to do it in like sort of short 20 to 30 second blasts, okay, until it's still nice and runny. Okay, so once your chocolate is nice and melted, okay, try to keep stirring it to cool it down, okay. So whilst we're waiting for that to cool down, we're now going to make up the butter and the icing sugar. Okay, so we've got our butter, which I've already whisked up, okay, to make it nice and soft, because it makes it a little bit easier. Then we're going to add in a little bit of icing sugar at a time, and then whisk that in. Like so. So once you've done your icing sugar and your butter, you then put in your cooled melted chocolate, okay, like so, and scrape that in, and then you're going to mix that up. Okay, now at this stage we should now have 3 tiers of sponges. 1, 2, 3. And we should have some icing made up. And on top of that, we now need some bits to decorate. Now, it really completely depends on what kind of nice treat stuff you like, okay? We've got a mixture here, so we've got some white buttons, Maltesers, curly whirlies, Freddos, fudge, and some white chocolate. So, and then you're going to mix that up. Okay, now at this stage we should now have 3 tiers of sponges. 1, 2, 3. And we should have some icing made up. And on top of that, we now need some bits to decorate. Now, it really completely depends on what kind of nice treat stuff you like, okay? We've got a mixture here, so we've got some white buttons, Maltesers, curly whirlies, Freddos, fudge, and some white chocolate. So really just get whatever you like, okay? So tend to find that when you're doing a chocolate cake like this, it mainly works better if you have like chocolate treat stuff to put on top. But if you don't really like chocolate sponge or chocolate things, then if you make a sponge cake, a vanilla sponge, okay, then you can then add in sweets, okay, if you prefer sweets to chocolate, okay, so you can add them on top, or even fruit, whatever you want to go for. Okay, first thing you want to do then is get about 1/3, so divide the icing into 3 portions. Put 1 portion on top of your first sponge, okay, which will be your base sponge, and then if you can then spread it out nice and evenly. Okay, so once you spread your icing out, you're then going to layer your next sponge on. Going to do exactly the same thing with that sponge, so dollop some icing on top of it, and then get spreading. Okay, so once you've layered your icing on top, you then can start placing your chocolate out, okay? So I usually try and take a slab of chocolate and just poke it in, okay? There's nothing glamorous about it. Slot it in, okay? You then got things like curly whirlies. Now, these are quite good, quite tall, and they're a different shape, okay? So they make it a little bit more interesting. So we can cut them up, and then we can pop them into the cake, okay, at a different angle, like so. There's lots of different ways you can do it. And then we've got things like the Freddo bars. They're another different shaped bar. Okay, well actually they're the shape of a frog. So you can pop him in there. Okay. Things like fudges. I think this is already broken in 2 anyway. So, yeah, it has. So we're gonna just pop that in somewhere else in the cake. Okay. Like so. Okay, and we'll do the same with the other curly whirly we have. So to mix the colour up a bit, okay, we're going to add some more white chocolate. So these are buttons we can put in. Okay, I tend to put the smaller chocolate around the front of the cake and then put the larger bars at the back. Like I said, you can use any kind of bars you want. You can use fruit, you can use sweets. So what I'll do is I'll share some pictures of like the other ones I've done in the past, so that way you get some ideas, okay? So we pop the white chocolate there. So what I'd then do is put perhaps like a darker chocolate in between to mix the colour up a little bit, okay? The good thing about this cake is they usually end up looking quite nice, but you really don't have to be all that careful when you're doing them. Okay, so pop them in, and then I'd do the next layer. So just sort of stagger them a bit. Okay, like that. And then put your Maltesers in between again, and keep working your layers back. Slot that one in there. Like so. Okay, so I had some leftover icing. Not everyone's going to have icing bags, which I totally understand, so don't worry if you haven't, it doesn't make any difference. But since I had some left over, and I do have some icing bags, I'm just going to now pipe some around the edge, okay? So if you've got it, great. If you haven't, it really isn't a problem, all right? Like I said, you could put any topping on. I will put some other pictures on, some other ideas. I'd normally put some strawberries on to add a bit of colour, but unfortunately the strawberries we've got have actually wilted, and going by government guidelines, I'm not going to go to shop just for some strawberries, okay, because they're not essential. Okay, so perhaps it's worth making a shopping list up of exactly what you want to go on your cake if you do decide to make a birthday or a celebration cake of some sort for yourself or a family member or a friend who you see, and that way you can then get everything that you want. You can write down exactly what you need and get it in one go, or the designated shopper in your house can.